Standardized testing. Every year, students in the state of South Carolina from grades 4 through 8 are required to take part in state standardized testing in both science and social studies. In the state of Pennsylvania, students in grades 3 through 8 take part in testing of math and English, and in grades 4 through 8, they take part in science testing as well. Here you can see that. In 2019, an average of over 500,000 students were tested in Pennsylvania. In South Carolina, an average of over 50,000 were tested. What do these exams prove? State, national, international standardized tests are just that. They're standardized to make sure that you're on the same level as your peers, whether they be in your school district, across the country, across the state. Have you ever questioned why you have to measure up against them? Why do you have to see if your education is on track to see whether or not you are proficient in one area or another? Are these tests really required? Or are they really necessary to measure a student's intelligence and base their performance against that of every other student in their grade? I spent 12 years in the public education system. In that time, I took at least 25 different standardized tests. I took state testing all throughout elementary and middle school, and in high school, I took SATs, SATs, ACTs, AP exams, and I took IB exams. Standardized testing, at least this much standardized testing, is not necessary. Pitting students against each other just to see how their intelligence measures up is not conducive to learning and educating. If a state and national testing can be so easily canceled for a year because of a pandemic, then what's their significance in the first place? If Secretary DeVos can cancel something that's required by law, then why do we have so much of it? Across the United States, there are millions of students who will take part in at least one standardized test per year, if not more. According to the National Center for Education Statistics, there were at least 56.6 million students attending K-12 schools. And I'm sure that everyone who was in the public school system, or even private school system, remember taking state testing. But what was the point? To determine whether or not your education is the same as everyone else's? If you're proficient or advanced, all you have to worry about is a few days out of your regular classes to take a test that you can finish in a couple hours. But what about those who don't fall in those categories? The ones who are behind? They don't receive any extra help once their results come in. They don't receive supplemental teaching. All they get is the knowledge that they do not meet expectations. And testing on a higher level, like that of AP or IB, or any other optional exam, brings a lot of stress and pressure on students to perform well. Standardized testing causes severe stress. And because I did well on state testing at a young age, it was assumed that I would do well on higher level testing. Yeah, for the most part I did, but that added pressure of knowing I was advanced in middle school meant that I had to push myself that much harder in high school. And yeah, on one hand, that's motivation, but on the other hand, that's that much more anxiety and that much more stress, and feeling like I had to measure up when I didn't know if I could. And even more stressful than the optional higher level testing is PSAT, SAT, and ACT testing. The scores of these tests essentially help colleges and universities decide if they want to admit you or not, because they can't make that decision solely based off of your GPA and grades alone. And the SAT has more so been emphasized, and it's been a requirement for being able to apply for colleges for years. And students are starting to make schools realize that even though these tests we've been trained to take for years don't matter that much. High schools teach the test. They don't teach to make their students actually learn the material. They teach us to pull and see if we don't know the answer. How is that learning? The problem with standardized testing itself is not the test. The problem is the amount of testing, the length, the requirements that come with it. And if they can be canceled so easily, then why do we have so many? A survey shows that 76% of psychologists in New York claim that state tests cause more anxiety than local tests, and 80% opted out because they don't want to take them. If you take a step back and look objectively at how much work students, high school students specifically, have to do in their 4 years, they have Common Core requirements, state and national testing, and then they have exam after exam just to prove that they're smart enough compared to everyone else to go to college. One thing I can say is to remember that you were in the place of these high school students at one point or another, and it's only gotten harder since then. Go online, do some research, and see for yourself. I want you to support all the students who have to take exam after exam to get into college because their 4.0 and up isn't good enough. Do your own research, sign a petition, talk to your local state leaders, your local schools, see what you can do to help. Because a change needs to be made within our education system. Imagine if you did those things. What would that look like? If you did those things, if you talk to your schools, if you talk to your local leaders, you'd be making the lives of so many people that much easier. If you volunteered to make or bring in breakfast on an exam day, or volunteered to watch a hallway during an exam, you'd be helping those students to relax before they have to go take that test. You'd be helping teachers not have to miss their own classes because they have to sit and watch a hallway for students going to the bathroom. What if you were able to make a change just by speaking up? By helping to bring attention to these issues, so many people would be more aware, and potentially those in government might just be able to make a change to the laws that make all these tests a requirement in schools, at least as far as state and national standardized testing goes. And you should speak up, because if you were in that position, if you were the student who had to take over 13 exams within 2 weeks, like I did, because you had to prove that you learned so much material because your grades weren't enough, you would want someone to speak up for you too. State, national, international standardized testing has wreaked havoc on the lives of students for years. The amount of tests per year is insane. These tests only show how you compare to everyone else. They don't show any individuality. No two people are going to be the exact same. No one learns the same. They aren't needed. If exams can be put on pause for a year, if College Board can cancel their exams, if IB can cancel their exams, if Secretary DeVos can put a pause on standardized testing, if over 1,000 colleges and universities have made ACT and SAT scores optional, then why do we have so many? See what you can do. See how you can help. Learn what exams students have to take every year through K-12 education, and speak up. Talk to your schools, talk to your government, see what you can do personally. I personally thought that testing was normal, that there wasn't anything wrong with the way that our education system is, until I went through it. Read the book The Overachievers by Alexandra Robbins. It'll give you a good insight into what high school's actually like.